everybody, and welcome to episode 66 of All About African Violets. All About African Violets is musically sponsored by Ted Yoder. You can hear and purchase his wonderful music on his website at tedyoder.com. It is also available from iTunes. Hi everybody, come on into my sunroom. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I know that there are a lot of new people watching more recently. A lot of folks, you've just discovered the podcast. I've been getting emails again saying that you've gone back to the beginning. And I think, oh my goodness, you must be so tired of hearing my voice if you've been watching now like a bunch of episodes one after another. But gee, I'm so glad that you're here and that you've gone back and that you're enjoying the podcast. So welcome. And if you've been with me all along, welcome back, and let's come on in. And you can see it's not sunny, it's the evening. It's Saturday night, and I'm spending mine with you this week, and I've got a lot to share with you this week. I just got some cool things. So let's just jump right into tips and treasures, because we had some questions. I got some questions from you guys on the website, and a little bit more about chloramines. This is a continuing conversation because Chris posted about something called Prime, which is an aquarium product, and I'm familiar with it. I remember it back in the day when I used to have fish tanks. It's a really long time ago. And I don't know how it would affect the plants. I know what it does, and it's very interesting because then Jeff left a comment, and what he said he is aware of several of those types of products that have for fish tanks that have an ingredient to increase the protective slime coat on fish. And he said, this is great. This is like a fun word to say. He said it's like polyvinyl rolidones. I hope I said that right, because it's really fun to say. Polyvinyl rolidones. Anyway, he said he'd like to hear my thoughts and Joyce's thoughts and Jeff Smith's thoughts as well about whether or not the ingredients which produce the slime coat for fish are harmful for leaves or plants. And that's a really good question, Jeff, and I don't know the answer. I know that some people do use fish tank water on their plants, and I would guess, based on my personal experience, which granted is many years ago now, but I would guess that, I know we had to put that stuff in the fish tank. Like every time we did a water change, we'd have to put a few drops in to keep everybody alive. But then if you used that fish tank water, the stuff that you might eventually siphon out as kind of like fish emulsion for your plants, that would be in the water. And I know that a lot of people have great success using fish emulsion or, fish tank water in some form. So I will run that by Joyce and Dr. Jeff Smith and let you know what I find out. So great question. This is a good conversation, ongoing conversation. And Jeff had more questions this week, and it's great. He says, I noticed that you, like other African violet enthusiasts, propagate the leaf in a solo cup which contains a wick. Here are the questions which popped into my head. Why do you include a wick in a container when propagating a leaf? From what I recall of the various episodes, Jeff is one of the folks that just kind of went back and has been watching again from the beginning. And he said, from what I recall, you initially water with your squirt bottle when propagating the leaf, and immediately afterwards the leaf is placed in the dome tray. It isn't until after you have separated the newly created baby plantlets into their own container, and after a short time period again under the dome, that plants are placed onto a self-watering container or tray. I'm a little perplexed why wicks are a step in the technique of propagation if the wick is not used. Am I off target? No, you're not off target. Your questions are very valid. I use a wick from the beginning for a variety of reasons. Because I use the same style of potting for my baby leaves that I use on regular plants, it becomes important to have the wick there. And here's why. Because if you have a solo cup and when I add that layer of coarse perlite to the bottom of the cup, that effectively is making my growing area much shallower. So it's not the whole depth of the cup. There's a layer of perlite, that's airspace. Well, when you do that, and I'm not only on the baby, I do it on the leaves, but I also do it on my plants. The reason that I do that is it's kind of an extra protection, and I guess I've never really spelled this out for you guys, so this is a really good question, Jeff. That layer of perlite, I use it as part of what's called the modified Texas style of watering, but the reason that I do it is because that layer of perlite that's in the bottom of the solo cup gives you kind of a small insurance policy against inadvertently overwatering. So if you have that layer there, water, if you didn't have the wick, there would be no way for the water in the saucer to be drawn up to reach the roots of the plant as it's growing. So you have the wick in there from the very beginning, and it breaches, that's not the right word, it creates a bridge between the dirt at the top of the layer of perlite and the bottom of the cup. So when you have your tray with all the little cups in it, with all the baby leaves in it, there is water because I have used my squirt bottle and watered it in just like you said, but water drips out the bottom. And then I do add a little bit of water usually to the tray and kind of move it back and forth till I get everything, the wicks are all wet, which means they're drawing water up into the dirt where the roots are forming and will need to be moist. Then I put the dome on, and then it pretty much stays like a closed system, although I do obviously open it from time to time to check it. And on a plant, same thing, like I can reach over here and grab a plant. And so this is Texas Hot Chili. And there's the wick with a piece of perlite hanging off of it. And there is like a little bit of water in this saucer because I watered earlier today. But there's not dirt on at the base of this pot. There's a layer of perlite, and it starts right about here, which means the growing area is really only this much. I almost dumped that water out on my lap. And so when the wick is sitting there in the water, the roots are not sitting in the water. The coarse perlite is touching the water. The wick takes the water up into the soil, keeping it evenly moist, and the plant will that's the theory behind having your plants on a reservoir when you travel, is that the wick is in the water and it's sucking up the water that the plant needs over a period of time. So it's continuously wet, but the soil is not sitting there wet. And the coarse perlite, it gives you that buffer between the water and the dirt, but it also creates airspace. Well, roots not only need dirt and water to grow, they need air. And we all know that the most common cause of violet death is overwatering. And so having that wick in from the very beginning and having that layer of perlite keeps my leaves from being inadvertently overwatered, which could increase their chances of rotting away before they even sprout. Excuse me. And keeping that wick, so I do it from the beginning. It just has become a habit. From the time I put a leaf down, I stick a wick in there, and I always have a layer of coarse perlite, which gives me airspace and that little insurance policy against overwatering. So I hope that's helpful. That was a really good question. Thank you, Jeff. Now, he asked a couple more, and I should have just said this at the same time, because he says, again, related to leaves which are being used to generate baby plantlets, how frequently do you water leaves which are living under the dome conditions? I don't think I have ever seen an episode where you added water to leaves which were in the process of generating plantlets. And you're right, you haven't seen me do it, because I usually do that when I'm watering, and you guys don't usually see me watering the plants. You just see the look at what's on the stands. If there's enough, you'll be able to tell as you look at the dome. You'll see the condensation that's in there, and it's kind of that closed system, and the plants transpire the condensation happens, it trickles back down, comes back in. It's, you know, kind of circular in that way. But you do need to look and pay attention from time to time. Every couple, you know, every week to 10 days, really take a look and see if maybe you need to add a little bit of water to make sure that there is still enough water. Sometimes in the tray, you know, my trays are old and they can get kind of bowed, so that sometimes the plantlets that are sitting along the outside of the tray, they don't always, they'll dry out sooner than the ones in the center. And you can tell when you're looking at them if the potting mix is dry on top. And if you see that, take the dome off, give everybody a little drink from the top, and then maybe add a little bit more water in the bottom. Make sure that all the wicks are covered, you know, got wet. Put the dome back on. It's just a process, just like anything else, of looking and paying attention to what they need. And when you're checking them on a daily basis or every other day, you know, hopefully every day, then you see this and you capture it, you catch things in time. So great questions. Thank you for asking them. I hope my answers were helpful for you. Well, I have a treasure to share with you today. I'm going to share a video with you. I want to talk a little bit about vintage violets versus classic violets and what that means. And the woman who really is the queen of vintage violets is Barbara Elkin. And I had the opportunity to interview her at National, and believe me, I had to coax her to be on camera with me. And you'll hear, I mean, she does have a very special place in my heart. She was my very first teacher, and I learned some very important lessons from her. She is a wonderful person. She is also a hybridizer, and she is in a wheelchair, and you'll see her. It is difficult to hear her. She has a very soft voice. It's a short interview, you guys. It's only about 7 minutes long. But I really want to have you meet her and hear what she has to say. And so let's go meet Barbara, and I'll be right back. Hi, everybody. I'm here, still at National, with Barbara Elkin, and she has a special place in my heart. She was my very, very first teacher. When I went to judging school, I had no intention of becoming a judge. And Barbara came down from Northern California when I still lived near Ventura, well, in Santa Clarita. And she taught our judging school that year. And I actually have a something I never forgot from you, because we have to actually judge 2 plants when we take our test. And I wasn't even going to take the test, but everybody said, well, Annie, you're there, you might as well take the test. And so we had to judge a plant, and one of those plants was Irish Flirt. I don't even know if you remember this. I'll never forget it, though. And it never has been one of my all-time favorite plants, even though, as you guys know, I had one in the show this year here at National. But I judged it, and I turned in my paper, and I heard this voice say, Annie, you better get back up here, judge this plant again. And that's how I learned that it doesn't really matter what we like. We have to judge a plant on its merits, and you taught me that. So, and I've never forgotten it. And you've been a grower for a long time and a hybridizer. And
1960 something.
1960 something? Well, why do you grow violets? What is it about them? Why do you like them? They're yours, so nobody else is in the house. It's just yours. All right. Well, so you started in 1960, and I know that you then became a hybridizer. How did that interest start for you?
I was looking for singles and singles.
Single blossoms. Okay.
Correct. No, semi-doubles. And then I got into multiple stamens, so they don't drop.
Okay.
2 stamens and they drop. 4, they don't.
Okay.
But they never throw the extra petals for semi-doubles.
So that would make it stick tight. Is that what it is? It's a stick tight. What as opposed to a dropper, a plant that will drop its blossoms.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
So you'll see a single, you'll see how many stamens are there,
Okay.
and it'll tell you whether it's going to drop or not.
Okay. So we look for 4 if we want stick tight,
Or more.
or 4 or more.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I kind of know how you grow your plants because I've had the great pleasure of being in your home. But I would love for you to tell my viewers about your beautiful greenhouse that's like, it's like part of the living room, you guys. It's just right there and it's beautiful. Tell them a little about it.
Because I have bad legs and I don't climb stairs and I don't want to have to go out to deal with my legs. Before I would move out of Santa Clara, they promised me
A greenhouse.
I lived there 26 years. I didn't want to move.
So, but you got a greenhouse in the
I do,
house.
yeah.
It's in the living room, you guys. I mean, it's just like this extra piece and it's so gorgeous. It's really beautiful.
Not right now, but we'll get there.
Well, she asked me to come and visit, and I think it's because she wants me to help her with the greenhouse. Is that it? Do you think you have a specialty, Barbara, as a grower and as a hybridizer? You love them all. That's great. You're an equal opportunity grower.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Do you have a favorite plant?
Yes.
What is it?
Colorado Night, Starshine, and Blue Boy.
Colorado Night Starshine. I've not. Is that one of yours?
Granger Starshine.
It's a Granger. Okay.
Yes, and Blue Boy.
And
They're
Blue
all
Boy.
singles.
So that's your piece. It's the singles. I love that. Do you have a favorite tool that you use with your plants?
Sucker Blood.
A sucker plucker. Do you use a pencil ever? I know a couple people have said they use a pencil. You use the actual sucker
Sometimes
plucker.
a fingernail.
Fingernail. It's always good to have a good thumbnail and a fingernail. I agree. Well, I'm so glad you agreed to sit down with me. I had to kind of coax her, you guys. But I have one last question for you. What advice would you give to a beginning grower, someone who's brand new? What would be your best advice?
Be careful.
Careful with the water. I know.
I never lost one without water, but I have drowned a good many.
I've heard that we've heard that before, so it's good advice. Thank you so much. I love you.
Yes.
I'll be right back, you guys. She's pretty awesome, isn't she? And she really was a good sport. She had actually just been scuba diving, believe it or not, and she'd gotten caught in some fire coral, and her arms were all bruised. I had rash and bruises on them from the fire coral. I hope I'm doing things like scuba diving when I'm Barbara's age. She's just awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about classic versus vintage because it's something that comes up from time to time, and most affiliate shows have a vintage category, and the classic category is kind of new. And I did look in my handbook to see if there was anything specific about these items or these categories, and I didn't find anything. So I went to Joe Bruns because he knows all about this stuff, and I asked him and I said, Joe, what is the difference? And he said, well, in the AVSA convention show, a vintage violet is one that was introduced at least 25 years ago, while a classic violet is one that was introduced 15 to 25 years ago. The concept of classic violets started in either, he said he thinks it was either 2011 or the 2012 show at the AVSA convention. And I said, well, do we use those same, we use those usually in our affiliate shows too, right? He said, yes, we can, but you know, an affiliate can make any rules that it wants that suit the affiliate as long as they do not contravene or contradict any AVSA rules. So what I did, and you'll hear, we're about to go take a look at what's on the stands, but what I did is I pulled the information of my collection of the violets that I have, and some of these are still in leaf form, but some are plants already, and you'll see I got mixed up in a couple of spots, but I thought I'd share the list with you. The plants that I have that are vintage, that means by Joe's definition here that they are more than 25 years old. Start with Teneri's Royal Blue Trailer, which is the oldest plant I have, and it was registered in 1954. And you'll remember it's one of the very first trailers that ever was like the very first, among the very first. And they were, as we mentioned before, they were overlooked at the show in 1954 at convention because the pink violet had just made its first appearance, and everyone was very excited about pink. Granger's Peach Frost, Pixie Blue, Linda Darnell, Baby Brian, Fisherman's Paradise, Illini Peace, Ramblin' Lace, Honeysuckle Rose, Optimara Hawaii, Optimara Manitoba, Optimara Michigan, Picasso, and Chiffon Masquerade. Those are the ones I have that kind of fall in that vintage category. And the ones that I have that fall in the classic category are Milky Way Trail, Sundown Trail, Ellie Gardner, Gala Pink, Optimara Yellowstone, Arapaho, Powwow, Champagne Pink, Rob's Wagga Wagga, Nessa's Satin Rose, Lion's Plum Pudding, Optimara Modesty, Rhapsody Clementine, Rebels Night Breezes, and Smooch Me. So go take a look at what's on the stands, and I'll be right back. Hi everybody, it's time to take a look at what's on the stands. And I'm here in the guest room, and today we've been talking a lot about vintage and classic violets, and there are some on this shelf. Chiffon Masquerade is a vintage violet. It's from, it was registered in 1988, and Picasso also registered in 1988. So I think that's kind of a cool thing. And then down here, as long as we're up here, let's take a look over here. Sorry. Here is House of Amani, not Armani. Anyway, it's blooming, and I just let it bloom because it really is a sweet little lavender blossom. And here is Grandifolia 237, and it's making a slow comeback. Definitely slow, but definitely moving forward. Down here on the second shelf is Powwow. Boy, I've had a lot of email about Powwow this week. I've just heard a whole lot about it from people, of how many people really like it and they're very interested in it. And Gala Pink over there in the corner falls into the classic variety from 1990. And down here, Fisherman's Paradise is vintage from 1982. And Optimara Hawaii from 1987. I think I had a couple of, Smooch Me. Here, let's go back over here. Here's Smooch Me. And Smooch Me falls into the classic variety from 1998. Gosh, I sure hope I did my math right. Tammy, if you're listening, I hope I did my math right. And this is just another look here at the bottom shelf. Everybody's doing really well. Let's go down to the basement. Well, here we are, taking a look down here in the basement. Sundown Trail, getting ready to bloom. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Pixie Blue, after being repotted. I'm not so sure it's happy in this larger pot. And yesterday's Valentine, I'm not so sure it's happy right now either. Nobody's looking quite as good as I might like them. Here are the newest babies. And if we just drop right down, here are the babies that are a week older. Can you see what a tremendous difference there is? I mean, granted, there are more variegated ones up on this shelf. And I think sometimes they're a little slower to grow. But there's really a substantial difference just in that week's time period. The Streps over here, Party Pinafore looking beautiful, Tensi looking good. And Radar's Magic is getting ready to bloom over there. And then we come over here, and here is Teneri's Royal Blue Trailer. And this is the oldest, other than the species, this is the oldest plant that I have. This is, as I've mentioned to you guys before, one of the original trailers from 1954. And I'm really excited that it's blooming now. It's just really cool to see it. And Baby Brian is down here. This is Baby Brian, and that is also a vintage variety from 1981. And I'm just taking another quick look. I think Ramblin' Lace, which is one of these up here, if I'm not mistaken, is also from 1986. And I'm just looking real quick. Oh, Sundown Trail is falls into that's the one we were looking at over here. That falls into the classic variety, or section, I should say, 1989. And oh, you know what? When we were upstairs, I was talking about Pow Wow and looking for it on the sheet, and it escaped my vision. But Pow Wow from back upstairs, classic from 1992, as is Arapaho, which is one of the leaves that I have here. So I think that's everything that's down here. So now, sorry about that. Let's look over here and just see how things are going under the dome. Everybody looking pretty good. Our challenge leaf really putting up some babies now. I'm kind of excited about that. Whoa, let's get the dome back on. There. And on the short dome, things happening here too. All these species leaves, things are looking pretty good. And my Apicia keeps growing like mad. It's so exciting. Let's go take a look on the strep shelf. Here we are on the strep shelf, and I think the Apicia looked like it was a funny color. Guys, I'm sorry about that. I hit one of the knobs on the camera, but I've corrected it now, so color should look normal again. Here's Heartland's White Gold. It's so interesting to me that as the flowers fade on this one, they take on a kind of a pinkish cast. Do you see it? It's very interesting because they are white and with that golden throat. This is Salmon Sunset. And today I think you're really seeing it better than you may have in weeks past. It is really a gorgeous salmon color with a deep red and yellow throat. Really beautiful. Dale's Polar Berries, still nothing blooming here. Nothing happening. And nothing happening here either on Midnight Flame. Let's go upstairs. Well, here we are up in the sunroom. And this is Optimara Yellowstone. And it falls under the classic banner, 1991. And Granger's Peach Frost is the second oldest plant that I have. It's a vintage. It falls in 1971. Wow. Oh, and Pixie Blue downstairs, 1974. And I'm just looking, I just ran up the steps, so now I'm feeling kind of out of breath. Oh, the other older variety that's up here is down on the third shelf, and that is Optimara Michigan, and it is 1987. Then I'm just coming back up here to take another quick look. Oh, Rob's Wagga Wagga. Let's walk around here. Rob's Wagga Wagga falls in the classic category, 1994. And I think that's everything other than, everything else is still in leaf format. So just take a look here. This is Champagne Pink getting ready to bloom, and the one that I have down in my office is also getting ready to bloom, and I'm going to let it bloom. Here is Jersey Snowflakes, and it is really a beautiful plant. I'm loving it. Texas Hot Chili. Everybody looking good on the second shelf. And down here, and take a look at Buckeye Celebrity Status. It's looking really quite good. It's later in the day, so the leaves are a little faded out. That happens sometimes. It happens more with species plants where they kind of fade at the end of the day. But I've seen it obviously on hybrids as well. All right, let's go take a quick look at the big box violet. Well, I still haven't had a chance to repot it, and it really, really needs it. It's got some more leaves that are starting to lose their grip here, but it's still so beautiful that I haven't been able to bring myself to do it. Well, that's the look at what's on the stands this week. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the classic and vintage varieties. I'll be right back. I just thought it would be kind of fun for you to see them. You know, they're not blooming, so you can't really see them too well. Although Rob's Wagga Wagga is still blooming, and I've let it go as well because it's right here. Do you want to see it again? It's got some extra water in the saucer. You can see it close up. Look at it. Look how cute it is. It's really a beautiful little trailer, isn't it? I like it a lot. It's really fast becoming a favorite of mine. Well, it's time to get the bail money ready, and I have lots to share with you this week because the fall shows are happening. Well, first of all, on Saturday, the Illinois African Violet Society's fall meet will be taking place. It's Saturday, October 5th, and it will be at the Federated Church in Sycamore, Illinois. The cost is $15 to attend, and it includes an Italian buffet lunch. And Dr. Jeff Smith has agreed to come from Indiana and be our speaker. So we're all really excited to hear him. So that's next Saturday. And then also on Saturday and Sunday, October 5th and 6th, the Spring Branch African Violet Club in Houston, Texas is having its annual fall sale. And it will be at the West Gray Multi-Service Center, again in Houston, Texas. And the African Violet Society of Greater Tulsa is also having an annual fall sale. It's on Saturday, October 5th, and it will be at the Tulsa Garden Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And in Tacoma, Washington, the St. Paulia Society of Tacoma is having its annual Judged Show and Sale on Saturday, October 5th, and that will be at Watson's Greenhouse and Nursery in Tacoma. And all of that info is on the new AVSA website. How exciting is that? It's really looking good. I hope you guys have been out there and checking it out. It's at avsa.org. And a lot of work has gone into the new website, making it more and more accessible and easy for us to use. And there's great stuff there. And I hope that you guys will go out and take a look. I hope if you have not yet joined the AVSA that you will consider joining. And now's the time because membership is going to go up in November. So if you've been thinking about it, join now so you get it for a cheaper price. Well, it's time to keep moving forward. And, I'm still working on the Project Zero that I told you guys about last week. And I will leave another link that you should be able to click on to go to my personal blog, should you have an interest in reading a little bit more about Project Zero. And really, I've just been pounding through stuff in the house. I don't know if I always feel like this is the new year rather than January 1st, this right after Labor Day, this September time frame, caught in that old school year calendar, I guess. And I've really been divesting things and cleaning stuff out. And I can say that now, I had a large collection of American art pottery called Hull, Hull, that I had collected over decades of time, and I realized it was time to let it go. So on yesterday for me, Friday when you see this it'll be Sunday, but on Friday the auctioneer came from Ohio, and he came and he boxed it all up and put it in his van and drove away with it. So it's all gone. It'll be going on auction online later this year and early next year. So I think it's really good to divest things from time to time. I think that's part of why I ramped up my plants as I was starting over, and now it's time to downsize and begin to make things a little more reasonable. I just find that when we let stuff go, it just frees up a whole lot more energy. At least for me it does. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I really I wanted you to meet Barbara and talk a little about vintage and classic violets, and so I hope that you enjoyed that, and thank you for being here. Thank you for coming back every week. I hope your days will be filled with all the things you love. Good growing. I'll see you next time.